What if the reason your life feels heavy isn't because of your problems, but because of the people you're paying attention to? Every day, people lose energy arguing with critics, worrying about opinions, explaining themselves to strangers, and reacting to negativity that should have been ignored. They allow other people's words to control their emotions, their confidence, and even their future. But the most powerful people understand something different. Not everything deserves a reaction. Not every opinion deserves attention. Not every person deserves access to your mind. And the moment you learn to ignore the right people, something incredible happens. Your mind becomes quieter. Your focus becomes sharper. Your confidence becomes stronger. And your life begins moving forward again. In today's speech, you'll discover why ignoring people is not weakness. It is one of the most powerful forms of self-mastery. And by the end, you may never give your attention away so easily again. Most people think power comes from money, status, intelligence, or influence. But there is another form of power that is far more important and far more rare: the ability to remain unaffected. Look closely at the average person's life, and you will notice a pattern. Their emotions are constantly being controlled by external events. Someone praises them and they feel confident. Someone criticizes them and they feel insecure. Someone agrees with them and they feel validated. Someone disagrees with them and they become defensive. Without realizing it, they spend their entire lives reacting. Their mood reacts, their confidence reacts, their focus reacts, their decisions react. And because they are always reacting, they never truly gain control over themselves. This is one of the greatest weaknesses in human nature. People assume that because they are making choices, they are in control. But if your emotional state changes every time someone says something about you, then who is really in control? The person speaking, not you. The moment someone can easily trigger anger, insecurity, frustration, or self-doubt within you, they gain influence over your mind. And most people give away this influence freely. A stranger leaves a negative comment. Their entire day is ruined. A coworker makes a disrespectful remark. They replay it in their mind for hours. Someone ignores them. They begin questioning their value. Someone succeeds. They suddenly feel inadequate. Notice what is happening. These people are not living according to their own direction. They are being emotionally pulled by whatever happens around them. Like a ship without an anchor, they drift wherever the emotional waves take them. But powerful people operate differently. They understand that attention is one of the most valuable resources they possess. And because of that, they do not hand it over to everyone. They do not feel obligated to react to every insult. They do not rush to respond to every criticism. They do not allow every opinion to enter their mind and take control. Instead, they pause, they observe, they decide whether something deserves their attention at all. And most of the time, the answer is no. This is where real freedom begins. Not when the world becomes kinder, not when people stop criticizing you, not when negativity disappears, but when you stop allowing those things to determine your emotional state, because the truth is that there will always be difficult people. There will always be critics. There will always be individuals who misunderstand you, doubt you, or attempt to provoke you. You cannot control their behavior, but you can control your response. And that response determines the quality of your life. Every unnecessary reaction steals a piece of your focus. Every emotional outburst gives away a piece of your power. Every moment spent fighting meaningless battles takes you further away from your purpose. The people who accomplish extraordinary things understand this deeply. They do not waste their energy reacting to everything around them. They conserve it, direct it, protect it, because they know that their future is built by what they focus on, not by what they react to. And the moment you stop reacting to everyone, you begin experiencing a level of calm that most people never reach. You stop allowing strangers to control your emotions, and for the first time, your attention returns to where it belongs: your own life, your own path, and your own growth. Once you stop reacting to everyone around you, you begin noticing something that most people spend their entire lives misunderstanding. The majority of the pressure they feel does not come from other people. It comes from their own imagination. Human beings have a tendency to believe they are constantly being watched. They assume that everyone notices their mistakes, remembers their failures, and pays attention to every awkward moment. As a result, they become trapped in a cycle of self-consciousness. They hesitate before speaking, they hold back their ideas, they abandon opportunities. They hide parts of their personality, not because someone stopped them, but because they fear what people might think. This fear is incredibly powerful because it feels real. When you walk into a room, your mind immediately begins creating stories. What do they think of me? Did I say the wrong thing? Do I look confident enough? Am I being judged? The strange thing is that while you are asking these questions about yourself, everyone else is often doing exactly the same thing. They are worried about their own image, their own problems, their own insecurities, their own future. They are not spending nearly as much time analyzing you as you imagine. This is one of the great illusions of human psychology. We place ourselves at the center of everyone else's attention, when in reality, most people are occupied by their own concerns. Think back to an embarrassing mistake you made years ago. You probably remember it clearly. You may still feel uncomfortable thinking about it, but ask yourself something important. How many other people still remember it? Very few. Most have forgotten completely. They moved on with their lives long ago, yet many people continue carrying the weight of moments that nobody else even remembers. This creates a prison of unnecessary fear. A person wants to start a business, but worries about being judged. Someone wants to create content, but fears criticism. Someone wants to pursue a dream, but is afraid of looking foolish. And because of that fear, they never begin. What makes this tragedy even worse is that the criticism they fear often never arrives. The obstacle existed only in their imagination. This is why learning to ignore people is not simply about avoiding negativity. It is about seeing reality clearly. The reality is that most people are not watching you. Most people are not analyzing your every move. Most people are too busy dealing with their own lives. When you truly understand this, something inside you relaxes. You stop performing for an invisible audience. You stop editing every word before speaking. You stop living according to expectations that exist mostly inside your head. Instead, you become free to act, free to take risks, free to make mistakes, free to learn, free to grow, because growth requires imperfection. And imperfection becomes impossible when you are constantly trying to avoid judgment. The people who build extraordinary lives are not necessarily fearless. They simply understand that the opinions of strangers are too small a reason to abandon their potential. Once that realization takes hold, another habit begins losing its grip on you. You stop feeling the need to constantly justify your decisions because you understand that chasing understanding from everyone is just another way of seeking approval from people whose opinions no longer deserve control over your life. As you become less concerned with other people's opinions, another trap begins to reveal itself. It is the exhausting habit of constantly trying to explain yourself. Most people do this without even realizing it. They explain their decisions. They explain their goals. They explain their choices. They explain their actions. And whenever someone questions them, they immediately feel the need to defend themselves. At first, this seems harmless. After all, everyone wants to be understood. Everyone wants fairness. Everyone wants others to see their intentions clearly. But the problem is that not everyone is interested in understanding you. Some people have already formed an opinion before you even speak. Some people hear your explanation and twist it to fit their own beliefs. Others are committed to misunderstanding you because it makes them feel superior, comfortable, or justified. No amount of explanation can change a person who has already decided what they want to believe, yet countless people waste years of their lives trying. They enter endless arguments. They defend every decision. They respond to every accusation. They chase approval through explanation. And in doing so, they slowly surrender their peace. The deeper truth is that the need to explain yourself often comes from fear of being judged, fear of being disliked, fear of being misunderstood, fear that other people's opinions might somehow define your value. This is why many people cannot tolerate criticism. They immediately rush to correct it. They feel an overwhelming urge to defend their image. But powerful people understand something different. Your life is not a courtroom. You do not need to prove your innocence to everyone you meet. You do not need to convince every critic. You do not need to win every argument. And you certainly do not need to explain your vision to people who lack the ability to see it. Think about the most successful individuals throughout history. Many were misunderstood. Many were criticized. Many were doubted. If they had spent their lives explaining themselves to everyone who disagreed, they would never have accomplished anything meaningful. Instead, they focused on their work. They focused on results, because results speak a language that explanations never can. Words can be questioned. Identities can be doubted. But consistent action eventually becomes impossible to ignore. This is why silence is often far more powerful than argument. Silence does not mean weakness. Silence means confidence. It means you no longer feel responsible for managing everyone else's perception of you. It means you trust your path enough to keep moving forward without constant validation. Many people are shocked when they discover how much energy they regain after they stop explaining themselves. Their mind becomes quieter, their focus becomes sharper, their confidence becomes stronger. Because they are no longer wasting attention on people who were never going to understand anyway. They stop chasing approval. They stop seeking permission. They stop trying to control how others interpret them. And in that freedom, they discover something valuable. The people who truly matter will understand through your character and actions over time. The people who are determined to misunderstand you would never have been convinced by words in the first place. Once you accept that reality, you stop talking so much about your path and start walking it. And when your energy is no longer consumed by endless explanations, you begin seeing another truth clearly. Some of the biggest distractions in life are not your enemies, but the drama, conflict, and emotional chaos created by people who have no purpose of their own. Once you stop explaining yourself to everyone, you begin noticing something that was hidden in plain sight all along. Many people are not trying to build a meaningful life. They are trying to stay entertained. And one of the easiest forms of entertainment is drama. Drama requires no discipline, no vision, no purpose, no self-control. It only requires attention. That is why so many people become trapped in it. They talk about conflicts that do not concern them. They spread gossip that adds no value. They create arguments where none existed. They turn small misunderstandings into emotional battles. And without realizing it, they spend years feeding chaos instead of building something meaningful. The problem is that drama is contagious. The moment you engage with it, you become part of it. Someone says something negative about you. You respond. They respond again. You defend yourself. They escalate. And before long, your mind is occupied by a conflict that should never have received your attention in the first place. This is how countless people lose focus. Not through major disasters, not through life-changing failures, but through small distractions repeated every day. A little gossip here, a little conflict there, a little emotional reaction somewhere else. Individually, they seem harmless. Together, they consume years of your life. The most dangerous thing about drama is that it disguises itself as importance. It convinces you that you must respond. You must defend yourself. You must prove a point. You must win. But ask yourself an honest question. How many of the arguments you won actually improved your life? How many conflicts made you wiser? How many emotional battles moved you closer to your goals? Very few. Because drama creates activity without progress. It keeps you busy while producing nothing. And many people mistake being busy for being productive. This is why individuals who achieve extraordinary things often appear detached from unnecessary conflict. It is not because they never face criticism. They do. It is not because they never encounter negativity. They do. The difference is that they refuse to give those things more attention than they deserve. They understand that every moment spent inside drama is a moment stolen from creation. While others are arguing, they are working. While others are gossiping, they are improving. While others are fighting over opinions, they are building their future. This mindset creates an enormous advantage over time. Because success is often less about what you do and more about what you refuse to waste energy on, the average person allows every emotional disturbance to enter their mind. The disciplined person becomes selective. They ask a simple question: will this matter a year from now? Will this move me closer to my goals? Will engaging with this improve my life? And if the answer is no, they let it go. That is not weakness, that is wisdom. The ability to walk away from unnecessary conflict is one of the highest forms of self-control. Anyone can react, anyone can argue, anyone can be pulled into chaos. But very few people possess the discipline to ignore it and remain focused on what truly matters. And when you develop that discipline, something powerful begins to happen. The noise around you loses its influence, your focus becomes sharper, and you start realizing that the people who criticize, doubt, or oppose you are only dangerous when you allow them to distract you from the mission that should command your full attention. After learning to ignore drama, you begin facing a different challenge. It does not come from people who support you. It comes from people who doubt you, critics, doubters, people who underestimate you, people who tell you that your goals are unrealistic, people who laugh at your ambitions, people who quietly hope you fail. Most individuals make a critical mistake when they encounter these people. They become obsessed with proving them wrong. At first, this seems like motivation. It feels powerful. It feels productive. You tell yourself that their criticisms is fueling your success. And sometimes it does. But if you look deeper, you will notice something dangerous. Your attention is still centered on them. Your actions are still influenced by them. Your energy is still being directed toward them. In other words, they are still controlling part of your life. This is one of the most overlooked traps in personal growth. Many people believe they have escaped their critics because they are no longer hurt by them, but they are still reacting to them. Everything they do becomes an attempt to prove a point. Every achievement becomes a message. Every success becomes revenge. Every goal becomes a response. And when that happens, they unknowingly remain connected to the very people they claim to ignore. The truly powerful person operates differently. They do not build their future around critics. They build their future around purpose. There is a huge difference. When your motivation comes from proving people wrong, your focus remains external. When your motivation comes from purpose, your focus becomes internal. One creates temporary energy. The other creates lasting discipline. Think about how much time people waste watching those who doubt them, checking their reactions, wondering what they think, imagining how they will feel when success arrives. Meanwhile, valuable attention is being lost. The irony is that many critics never think about you nearly as much as you think about them. You imagine proving something to people who may have already moved on with their lives. You fight battles inside your mind that no longer exist in reality. This is why ignoring people becomes so important, not just ignoring negativity, ignoring the temptation to make your life about them. Because the moment your mission becomes larger than your critics, they lose their significance. Their opinions stop guiding your decisions. Their doubts stop influencing your confidence. Their negativity stops occupying space in your mind, and suddenly something changes. Your energy returns, your focus sharpens, your progress accelerates, because your attention is no longer divided. The people who achieve remarkable things are rarely the ones who spend years proving others wrong. They are the ones who become so absorbed in their purpose that they eventually forget their critics even exist. That is the highest level of freedom, not winning against your doubters, not defeating your critics, not humiliating people who underestimated you, but becoming so focused on your own growth that their opinions become irrelevant. Because every minute spent thinking about them is a minute taken away from your future. And your future deserves more attention than your critics ever will. Once you stop allowing doubters to become the center of your motivation, another realization begins to emerge. The final and most powerful distraction is not criticism, drama, or negativity. It is the habit of constantly watching other people's lives instead of fully investing in your own. After you stop reacting to everyone, stop worrying about opinions, stop explaining yourself, stop feeding drama, and stop giving your critics unnecessary attention, one final lesson remains. Perhaps the most important lesson of all. Stop watching other people. For most of human history, comparison was limited. You compared yourself to a small group of people around you. But today, millions of people spend hours every day observing the lives of others. They watch other people's success, other people's relationships, other people's achievements, other people's lifestyles, other people's progress. And without realizing it, they slowly become spectators in their own lives. Their attention leaves their own path and becomes attached to someone else's journey. This is one of the greatest dangers of modern life, because wherever attention goes, energy follows. If your attention is constantly focused on others, your energy will never be fully available for yourself. Think about how many people spend years comparing. Someone earns more money. Someone becomes more successful. Someone looks happier. Someone appears more confident. And immediately the comparison begins. Why am I behind? Why don't I have what they have? Why is their life better than mine? These questions seem harmless, but they create a subtle form of suffering, because comparison turns life into a competition that can never be won. No matter how much you achieve, there will always be someone ahead of you, someone richer, someone smarter, someone more successful, someone more attractive. If your happiness depends on being ahead of everyone else, you will never find peace. This is why ignoring people becomes the final stage of freedom, not ignoring them with bitterness, not ignoring them with arrogance, but ignoring the constant temptation to measure your worth against their lives. The truth is that you know almost nothing about another person's reality. You see their victories. You rarely see their struggles. You see their results. You rarely see their sacrifices. You see the highlights. You rarely see the pain. Yet many people compare their entire life to someone else's best moments. And then they wonder why they feel inadequate. The strongest individuals understand something different. Their only real competition is the person they were yesterday. They focus on their own growth, their own discipline, their own progress, their own purpose, because they know that extraordinary lives are not built through comparison. They are built through concentration. Every moment spent watching someone else's path is a moment stolen from your own. Every minute spent envying another person's success is a minute that could have been invested in creating your own. The people who transform their lives eventually make a powerful decision. They stop looking sideways. They stop measuring. They stop comparing. And they begin building day after day, step after step, without needing applause, without needing validation, without needing to know what everyone else is doing. That is when true confidence emerges, not from being better than others, but from becoming fully committed to your own journey. And that is the ultimate reason why ignoring people changes your life. It frees your attention, protects your energy, sharpens your focus, and returns your power to where it always belonged. Because the moment you stop living through reactions, opinions, drama, critics, and comparisons, you finally become the author of your own life instead of a spectator in someone else's.